Hi, everybody. This is John Self, and we'll be live with you in just a couple of minutes. Hi, everybody. I'm John Self, and welcome to Office Hours, our weekly review and coaching session on all things career management and job search. Today, we're going to be talking about everything you knew or thought you knew about career management is changing under your feet. A lot of people are just dismissing this, and then they get into a job search, and it is really, really torturous. You could even say murderous. But anyway, we're going to talk about that today, and we've got a great program lined up for you. So let's begin with our main presentation. Again, everything we took for granted is changing before our very, very eyes. We've entered a period in which unlearning and then relearning are now essential parts of your management toolkit, your sort of skill set. This transition, it is not a theoretical event, and you can't really dismiss it because it's not affected you yet, or you have not seen this before. I've been in this business for a long time, and the changes I've seen over the last 5 to 7 years are breathtaking. Delaying action to be prepared until it impacts you is really a formula for a major, major career derailment, and you just can't afford to do that. When you make mistakes in this new environment, the recovery period is much, much longer because everything has gotten more technical and more sophisticated. Okay, now this does not require a new job, a new employer, or a career change. What is required for you here is to have a complete mental reset about how you're going to manage your career. And most of you don't spend much time with that on a day in, a day out basis. You assume that doing a good job and making friends with people in the industry, that will be enough. But in fact, with all the technology that's happening, all the technology that's taking control of recruiting, those relationships are going to be important. But if they're friendly relationships and not brand management relationships, you could find yourself in a real pickle. As somebody said, once they drop the bomb, the consequences, you can't reverse those. So you cannot wait until these consequences, these setbacks come to your front door. You must think about these issues. You must think about these issues seriously today and move going forward to make this part of your weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual routine. This is just as important as doing a good job in your job. So what does all this mean? You know, John, you harp about this a lot. And the reason I do is because I'm dealing with this with other people on a day-to-day basis. I dealt with this for the last 10 or 15 years in executive search and saw people struggle as the market was beginning to change then. But in the last 7 to 10 years, it's really been a significant change. So let me tell you a little story about somebody who thought they understood everything, and they thought that everything was going to be fine because they were smart people and they could adapt at the right time. Let me tell you about this guy. His name is Wayne Smith. He ran a little company called Community Healthcare Systems in Tennessee, or Community Health Systems in Tennessee. They owned hospitals, a lot of them at one point, over 200. He was ambitious, he was confident, and some said ruthless when it came to his bonus. The T, you ask, what does that stand for? Well, in my opinion, it stands for hubris. A dangerous virus that occurs when executives believe their own PR story. Now, he was very successful. The company under his direction, after he took over from the founders, it had rapid growth, they had good margins, but they also had stunning CEO and CFO turnover rates. Wall Street loved CHS because they consistently produced improved earnings on same stores. You made your numbers or you were kicked to the curb, and they were pretty disciplined and pretty brutal. The company even bragged about how they drove their people to produce better results, and if they couldn't do it, they didn't deserve to work in the company. They bragged about that. Then a hedge fund board member and Mr. Smith got greedy. They thought they were bulletproof. And I see a lot of candidates and executives who believe that today. And in a quest to grow their top line revenue to placate Wall Street and another hedge fund board member, Mr. Smith and CHS bought a dumpster fire company called Hospital Management Associates in Florida. I mean, it was a mess. It had over $200 million in potential liabilities from overcharging, Medicare fraud and abuse, some criminal fraud. It was a mess of a company, but Smith was being pushed to get your top line revenue up. You got to grow, you got to grow. We want to see a higher stock price. And so he thought, well, I know what I'm doing. I can turn these old nasty hospitals around. I can make this work. And so he paid a lot of money for that. It was amazing what they paid. Now, CHS's previous acquisitions propelled it at that point to the largest hospital management company in the country, surpassing HCA, which is still the biggest. But they were only in that role briefly, because what he thought he knew, he really didn't understand. In 2007, they purchased Triad Hospitals and its contract management services subsidiary, Core Management, so that brought them 50 more hospitals for $6 billion. And then in 2013, with all the hedge fund pressure on Mr. Smith, Hospital Management Associates, they bought that for $3.6 billion. That gave them 71 hospitals, plus liability for lawsuits and criminal charges for making fraudulent claims against Medicare. Now, notice they got 50 hospitals and a management company for $6 billion, and in this case, they got 71 hospitals for $3.6 billion. A good deal, you say? Well, only if those hospitals can survive, and only if those hospitals had good payer mixes, and only if those hospitals were free of a lot of liabilities. It was a dumpster fire company, and it nearly sank them. As CHS grew, piling on debt, troubled hospitals' HMA, and civil and criminal liabilities. This is what happened. And the whole time this was going on, this landscape for healthcare, including a shift onto a greater emphasis on outpatient versus inpatient care, was dramatically happening. In other words, Medicare was now rewarding you to admit patients on an outpatient basis, which was a lower cost of reimbursement. It saved Medicare money. It was more efficient. It was more appropriate, the physicians believed. And yet, the model for CHS was butts in the bed. And so now here they have all these cantankerous hospitals with big problems in markets with bad payer mixes, and their butts in the bed revenue model was suddenly in trouble. It was suddenly in trouble. And so what did they continue to do? Well, they went back to their old bag of tricks. They got caught committing fraud, Medicare fraud. And the whole time for Wayne Smith and CHS and the investors, this was the perfect deadly storm. And no amount of fraud, no amount of clever billing, no amount of trying to bill for inpatient when it should have been an outpatient was going to save them. But here was their response. We are very experienced hospital operators. We know what we're doing. We will make the transition at the right time. And that's a theme that you want to keep in the back of your mind in today's office hours. These people thought they knew what they're doing. These people thought that they could control the situation they found themselves in, that they could really do what they've always done and it would work out. And that's another key point. Doing what they'd always done and it would work out. But for Mr. Smith, CHS, his investors, it was not to be. So in 2014, they had to spend $262 million to settle Medicare fraud claims. Now, a lot of these were on the HMA, but they knew that when they bought the company. And then later in 2014, they had to spend $95 million in a settlement to the Department of Justice for knowingly billing Medicare for inpatient charges for outpatient when it should have been done on an outpatient basis. They're very lucky that people didn't go to jail. Then they paid $75 million settlement for making illegal donations to counties for a now defunct matching program so that those hospitals in those poor margin areas with bad payer mixes, sole community providers, were getting money back from Medicare. And it went through the counties. And so they got caught in essentially kind of bribing their way to get more money. Does he go out on top? Not. When he started in 2014, he ran the company for more than 25 years. He had 206 hospitals in 2014. When the board finally pushed him out the front door, they had 81 hospitals. They lost a boatload of shareholder value, and it was a mess. CEOs lost their jobs. CFOs lost their jobs. Communities saw their hospitals not being maintained like CHS promised they would do that. And it became a mess because they thought that they knew what they were doing and they could make the change. Well, that's just crazy. So this is a projection that will, in hospital management, one of the biggest boondoggles in the history of the industry. We understand the market. We will make the adjustments at the right time. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. So what does the CHS story have to do with you? Well, great question. You'd be surprised how many times I hear that same line. Look, I know what I'm doing. I've been very successful in my career. I know how to get jobs. You don't need to worry about me. This is just a lot of hooey. I don't have time for this. I'm too busy running my company. Noble thing. You want to do a good job running your company. In fact, you have to do a good job running your company. But the problem is, if you haven't been in the job market in the last 5 years, you are going to be gobsmacked when you start looking for a job. Why? Because it's all automation, a lot of technology. And if you've not been in the market for a while, then you probably don't know anything about the scanners that are looking through LinkedIn. You're probably used to just having recruiters call you. Well, there are fewer recruiters because they're using more automation to source and screen resumes. And so this is a significant change. And we're just at the first stage. We're just getting started. We're just getting started. And it's already really, they're dynamic derailments in terms of it takes longer to find a job at the management and executive level. There are now fewer jobs at the management and executive levels significantly. And this has been a trend for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's probably not going to change. And so you have more people looking for fewer jobs. So what critical factors must you understand? Just like CHS, the market landscape is shifting under our feet. Just like CHS's CEO, the vast majority of managers and executives believe they can adjust at the appropriate time. And the problem and the pace of change is so fast today. And this is a big problem. The pace of change is so fast that many executives simply, if they're not familiar with what's going on, are not going to be able to catch up. And I've already seen that happen on several occasions. So why does this apply to you? If you don't start making active career management a big part of your daily existence, you're going to run into some very stiff headwinds, and you may find yourself looking for work in time ranges from 6 to 14 months. It used to be 4 to 8 months, and it's now gradually expanding. So there are three things that are going on here. First of all, a serious imbalance, a supply and demand issue. The number of management executive jobs available has declined. And that happened right about the time the pandemic happened, but it's continuing. The number of management and executive applicants is increasing. Along with the decrease in jobs, we still have the same number of management schools churning out these young executives, and all of them need jobs. All of them are looking for a place to work. Now, are there a lot of people retiring, baby boomers? Yes, but it's not at this point. It's not significant enough to really rectify the imbalance. Second, AI-powered automation is expanding the applicant pool. Okay, when I started recruiting 27 years ago, we would get the word out that we were looking for a CEO. And people that were interested, people that were, we either were between jobs or had heard about this, they would contact us and send us their resume. We would maybe post it on a couple of places like the American College of Healthcare Executives job board and a couple of other select places. And we'd get 20, 30, 40, 50 applications. Okay. We would also then know some people that might know some people. So we'd get on the phone and call people and then tell them about what we were doing, tell them a little bit about the job, and then ask for them to, if they refer us people that they might know. People that had jobs, didn't know this job was available, but might be interested. And so that's what happened. So a lot of times on those searches, you'd get 30 or 40, maybe 50 people from actively seeking jobs, actively applying for this job, and you'd get maybe 5 or 10 people who thought the job was interested and put their hat in the ring. They weren't looking, but they still applied. Okay? Well, now the AI-powered automation is expanding the applicant pool. High-speed scanners that LinkedIn uses, using specific algorithms for jobs, can capture hundreds, not thousands, of potential passive applicants in minutes. I mean, not all of these people are going to want the job. Not all these people are going to respond to the email letters they're going to get and apply for the job. But I guarantee you, we're seeing an increase in the number of passive applicants that didn't know about the job until they got the LinkedIn email. And how did they get that LinkedIn email? Because a scanner decided that their profile was compatible with the algorithm that was job specific, and so that they would qualify for the position. Now, the third thing that's going on is the finding a job now is marked by a lot of complexity. You've got to have a written career plan. Everybody says, "Well, I know where I'm going. I want to move up, and I've got it right here." Well, let me tell you something. When it's written down and you're looking at it and you're reviewing it every quarter, there's discipline to that. When it's up here, there's no discipline. Okay? People say, "Oh no, that's not fair. I've been very disciplined about my career." I would beg to differ. You probably have a good career because you've done a good job and you've been at the right place at the right time under the old system. People knew you, recruiters knew you, or you saw a job and you got it. Good for you. But now it's much more sophisticated because there are more people involved, there are less jobs, and you've got to have areas of the country and organizations where you would like to go next. You have to start really getting into that level of planning. A company is not going to, start off and just do business without a written plan. The other thing you have to do is now you have to become a master at professional branding. Why? Because you're going to not be identified, you're going to be identified more now based on what what your profile is on LinkedIn. So if you don't have a good profile, if you don't have a good picture, you're not probably going to get picked up by the recruiters, which means they're scanners. Okay, the next thing you need to do is you have to be adept at social media. Not only do you have to understand branding, but you have to understand the media channels so that you can promote your brand in along those channels. So you have to know about branding. You have to have a written plan that's specific about the kind of job you want, the geographic area you want to target, and the kinds of companies you want to target. Then you have to be able to master the branding. You have to be adept at social media. And you also now have to have some basic knowledge of video editing. Why is that important? Well, let me explain. Once upon a time, there was a new generation called millennials. And the millennials grew up doing what? This. They looked at videos all the time. And I can't tell you how many times on my elevator in my building in Dallas, I'd be going down. It was an older building, so they weren't the fastest elevators. And people, it was amazing. They were able to keep their internet connection. But people would be watching videos on their phones. That's the generation that's now moving into the recruiter chairs. There are people that are video centric. They like short videos. And so you're now going to have to add videos to your LinkedIn profile to stand out, to differentiate your brand, to be more visible, and to communicate in a compelling way your value. It's all going to get down to that. Then you also now have to execute a networking plan. Why? Because a lot of the jobs are never posted. They are just offline, and they're filled based on referrals. Now, that referral may be an executive search firm, but more often than not, it's people in the organization, people in associations that know about you, and so you need to build a network. Now, the research shows you can only build relationships if you have about 120 to 145 people, maybe 150, okay? And because in order to really be effective with your network, you can't just have a connection and then not build a relationship. Referrals are not made based on a connection. They're based on knowledge and trust. And if they don't know you or don't trust you if you're just one of 500 connections they have, why would they help you? You say, well, nobody ever responds back. Well, you have to take time and build a relationship, and you have to take the initiative. So Networking 3.0 is all based on your career plan that's supposed to be in writing. And it has a strategy, and it focuses on geography. It focuses on the hospitals that you are, businesses or companies where you would like to work, so that you start building relationships in those areas. It also, it may be if you would like to run some startup, then you want to build relationships with recruiters and or private equity people who are very much involved in that space. And video emails are very, very useful. Video emails are very, very useful on LinkedIn and in communicating with the younger generation of recruiters. The next thing you must master is the art of storytelling. Now, you would be surprised how many people, if I filled up my studio here and said, how many of you guys really think you're really good at interviewing? Most everybody would raise their hands. They're not going to say I'm terrible at interviewing, but guess what? Interviewing is one of the most unique forms of verbal communication in business. It's not like making a presentation. It's not like having a conversation. It is about you understanding what the customer is looking for, what the employer is looking for, and then you provide them the information they need to make the decision. And you must do it in a compelling way. You can't just give them spreadsheets and a lot of gobbledygook facts, because they won't remember that. And the research is very, very clear about that. They do remember videos at a high level, 95%. And by the way, email videos are opened at a 75% rate versus just standard text. So When you start to communicate your value brand statement, you need to be able to wrap situations, facts, and events around a story. And then you tell that story in a way that gets people's attention. And if you can do that, you will be memorable, and the memorable people are the ones that get hired. Why? Because those are generally the people that are liked and trusted, and that's two key issues on which hiring decisions are made. Okay, so you've got to be prepared to adapt to change. That's the other thing. This is changing so fast, and so everything. If you didn't know anything and learned it all very quickly, you'd still have to have the door open because it's changing that fast, and you're going to have to bring in new ideas and new information and learn how to use that information, how to adapt your strategy, how to change your plan, how to communicate more effectively. Now, here is today's big idea as we come up on the top of the hour. The big idea is that career management is not simply a job search. If that's what you think, you are in for a big shock and a big setback. Secondly, active career management is as important as doing a good job. And you can't say, well, I just don't have time. That's absolutely going to be the most lame excuse, and you will kick yourself into the next county if you go back and then start having trouble finding a job. I know some very competent people who had great careers in a variety of different businesses, left their jobs, and they thought, I'm just going to do what I've always done. And they started going about it, and they set aside a budget, and it took more money, in some cases all their money, and twice as long to find their next better job. Now, if you want to settle and make less money, and okay, that's great, you can probably do that. I hear they're still looking for waitresses and waiters. But if you want to achieve your goals, you've gone to school, you've worked hard, if you want to achieve your goals, then you're going to have to put the work in. And I'm not talking about doing the job, I'm talking about managing your career. You will absolutely have to do that. If you don't do that, you will find yourself in a real pickle. And, again, I've already seen that a lot in the last 2 years. So I hope this information has been some helpful. Listen, we're going to talk about something we're going to be doing on April the 27th. That's a Saturday. We're going to have a 3-hour career boot camp in which we're going to deal with the resume, interviewing, using video, all those things. Plus, we already have 2 special speakers set up. One who's a brilliant guy, a HR consultant from Dubai, my friend Ron Thomas, who's going to be talking about his career story and how he moved from New York and working for Martha Stewart and to running a very successful consulting practice in Dubai. So that'll be very interesting. And then my friend T.D. Smyers, who's been on a Self Perspective and who's a great leader, one of the top not-for-profit leaders in Dallas during his tenure there, will be here talking about how to do the career transition from looking for a job to moving in and successfully integrating into the new company. So those are things that are going to happen with our career boot camp. That's it on April 27th. More information later this week. Now, join us tomorrow morning on Career Live at 7:30 a.m. on YouTube. It's Guiding Your Career, John G. Self. Facebook, the johngself.com Facebook page, and LinkedIn, John G. Self. And it'll be 30 minutes, and we've got a great program planned for you in the morning. And then on Friday at 11 o'clock, we do something that's really cool. We have a lot of fun with called Your Career Questions, and you are able to submit your questions online in advance at info@johngself.com, or you can ask questions during the live stream, and we will answer them for you. We focus on career management and job search questions and anything that's related. So I hope that's information that will be beneficial to you. This is our 3rd or 4th week, and it's really the reception has really been good. We've gotten a lot of questions, so we hope that you'll join us Friday. Now, all of our streams, for limited periods of time, you can find them on YouTube and on Facebook. So check them out. If you weren't able to join us today or had to break away for other responsibilities, this will be available on YouTube. So I hope that's helpful. I hope you have a great evening. It's 5 o'clock, so we in the past have gone for an hour. We're trying different formats and different time zones to find out what helps you, what information will be beneficial to you, and what format can we deliver it where it will be meaningful for you. So thanks, everybody. We hope that you'll join us tomorrow morning for Career Live.